You may have seen in one of the earlier videos that I made that I bought one of these Ninja air fryers, and I've been doing some experiments, and I thought I'd show you at least one of the things that I thought was quite successful, and that's bread. Different sorts of bread, so I've chosen to do one which doesn't require to use yeast, though I think I will try that in the future. So the one I'm going to use is just flour. It's got a little bit of sugar in it, some salt, some vinegar, some bicarbonate of soda, not baking powder, this is bicarbonate of soda, some oil and some milk which I need to get out of the fridge. So I took a recipe that I saw online and I've sort of adapted it in terms of quantities because I didn't want to make such a large amount. And the recipe that I saw used butter, and I'm going to use olive oil instead of butter. So first of all, we start by just mixing the dry ingredients. So the first one is the flour, and I'm going to use cups as sort of an American way of measuring things. And it's just quite easy. I'm just going to do 2 cups of flour. And this is my school mug actually, so it's a bit bigger than a cup I suppose, and it doesn't require any weighing, so that's about 2 cups of flour. So I mix all the dry ingredients first. Don't need much sugar, so a spoonful or even less, 3/4 of a spoonful. I'm not sure what the sugar's there for. There's no yeast in here to activate with the yeast, so I don't know why that is, but it's what the recipe had in. Salt, I can imagine salt just for flavour, so again similar amount of salt, a teaspoon of salt, and about the same amount of bicarbonate of soda, then around about a salt. The recipe specifically said don't use baking powder, because if you do you need to put a lot more in and it has a much more effect on the flavour, on the taste of it. So I've used the baking powder. To activate the baking powder you need buttermilk, so that was the other thing that I didn't have. So instead of using buttermilk, which has got the acid content, I'm just using what we use here. This is just regular milk. In fact, it's actually desnatada. It's low fat oil. So whether it'll work, I don't know. And I'm just using vinegar. It said to use white vinegar, but I'm just going to use ordinary vinegar. So before I do that, I'm just going to mix the dry ingredients. Get them all mixed together, because as soon as I add the milk, which has had the vinegar put into it, it's going to start actually working and doing its magic. So the next thing I can do is add the oil, and the oil won't have any effect particularly on the bicarbonate of soda, so I'm not too worried about that. This is where it's said to use butter, so using about the same amount. So there's 1 and 2 tablespoonfuls of oil, and again I'm going to mix that in a little bit. What we're going to end up with is a dough, a sticky sort of dough. So now we've got to add the milk. Now I've got to prepare that first. Remember, I did say that the actual recipe that I was looking at said to use buttermilk, but we don't have any buttermilk. So for the milk, I'll just put that to one side for the moment. I'm just going to take about 3/4 of my mug of just regular milk. And then I'm going to add some vinegar. And it's really just enough to activate it, so it's only really going to be about a spoonful. This is a tablespoon, of course. Now, when I put that in, because it's an acid, and I'm a chemist, it's going to react with the bicarbonate of soda, and it's going to produce little bubbles of carbon dioxide, and that's what causes the bread to rise. So I'm going to stick all of that in, and then just get it all nicely mixed in. And I can already see the bubbles appearing. So the acid and the carbonate are already having a go at each other. Acid plus a carbonate, salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. And it's those little carbon dioxide bubbles that do all the good work. It gets a bit stiff and sticky here, but we carry on as much as we can before we get it out into the board. This is looking really good. I suppose Anita would do it in a mixer. I'm using brute force. That's looking good now, so what I need to do now is to get the board ready with some flour. So this is where it gets a bit messy, and that's just so it doesn't stick too much. Scrape it all out. I don't like now because it gets a bit messy. Got most of it. Now, to avoid it getting too messy, I'm going to put some more flour on the top. And that will allow me to touch it. Get some flour on my hands as well, I think. Lots of flour, and that way I can start to knead the bread. Just push it around, fold it over, and then get the dough going. I'm not going to do a lot of this. I'm just going to push it all together. And now my hands are a real mess, of course. One of the first things I purchased for the air fryer was these paper inserts, and they just seem to be quite a sensible thing to use to me. So let me just take the bread now, or the dough, and I'm just going to place it on there. And that way it doesn't mess up the inside of the air fryer, and I can just have a go at it. Now, I don't know why, but again, it shows you slitting the bread down. They did round ones, so I'll do just a line across there. I guess it means that the air and the cooking can get into it a little bit better. And it's painted then with milk. I've seen Anita, when she does pastries, she usually does an egg wash, so I suppose this is the equivalent of an egg wash. It's just, this is just the milk straight out of the carton. And if it gives it that little bit of extra brownie colour, then all the better. When I did try this the first time, it was great, it tasted great, but some of you might have said, oh, that looks a bit burnt, but that's how I like my toast, it's how I like my bread, so it was nice and crusty, so we'll see how this one turns out. Now, what am I going to do with that? I'm just going to press it, put it into the air fryer. So, there's my bread, and I'm just going to pop that straight in there. And I'm just going to put it in. Some of the recipes say you should preheat them. I'm not doing any of that. On mine, I've got settings here, and there's one that says bake. So if I come round to bake, that's at 160 degrees. Now I tried mine on 200 degrees for 20 minutes, and that really was not, well, it was burnt on the top and it wasn't cooked underneath, so I had to turn it over and start again. So I'm just going to put it on bake. It's on 160 degrees, but I'm going to change the time. Let's see what it comes out, 15. I'm going to put that up to 30 minutes. And we can come and see what happens in a bit. And away it goes. Now I've got to do the tidying up. Well, it's been in there for 20 minutes now, so I just thought I'd open it up and have a look. And that's looking pretty good to me. Might even take it out and have a closer inspection. Now, in order to get it out, I actually just pick it up by the paper. Because this bit is still very, very hot. And the bread is very, very hot as well. So I'm going to just see that it's still very soft around the base. So I'm going to turn it over and put it back in for the remaining 10 minutes. There it is, and that's a bit spongy there. So we'll put it in for the remaining 10 minutes, see how it goes. Well, is this the moment of truth, or does it take a little bit longer? Well, that's the base. And again, that looks pretty good to me. So let's take it over and inspect a bit further. Again, I'm just going to grab the paper and lift it out by the paper.
Just coming to check on it.
I need to come now to check. So, question is it cooked all the way through?
Or skewer.
She's the expert at this, so she's just going to stick a skewer in. She's giving
my new nails.
A real good stabbing. She's had her nails done this morning.
It's done.
It's done. Oh, I'm going to investigate further though. I'm not going to accept that. Now let's take it off the paper. Just a little bit there just to try.
That's all you're going to try, isn't it?
Nice and crunchy. I'm going to cut it. Is that advisable, dear, or shouldn't I do that?
I wouldn't just eat it, I'd cut it.
Pardon?
I think you should cut it before you eat it.
Right, so left-handed cut. This is a bit tricky. Does it look like bread? What do you think about that? It looks very spongy. It's a bit moist. Maybe it could have done with a little bit longer, but I'm really quite happy with that. And this bit here is just begging to be eaten. I'm happy with that, dear.
Good.
I was anticipating a lot of bloopers here and having to do the whole thing again. But this is a one take and it's all worked out really, really well. I'm looking forward to that. Some toast. I like to cut it in nice thick pieces and then I'll stick it in the toaster and I'm sure that's going to be absolutely delicious. So I'm looking forward to that with my breakfast in the morning.
Yeah, pity we're going out for lunch now.
Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video. Bye for now.
Bye.